What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Today's video is a clip from The Line. If you want to catch me on The Line, I'm on there once a month to host Skept Talk. The Line also has a number of other shows that you might be interested in. So after you watch this clip today, why don't you go on over there, subscribe, and be sure to catch the next show. Now, Kevin, this is kind of like a baptism thing here on the show because we've got Ammanuel on the line from California. Hi there, Ammanuel. How you doing?
How are you, Godless?
I'm doing pretty good. It's nice to hear from you again.
I assume that you already know the topic of the conversation.
Well, I mean, I don't like to take the wind out of people's sails. So, I mean, if you wanted to kind of introduce what you want to talk about tonight, that would be great.
Okay, thank you. So, I don't believe that we have free will. And I would say that's like an indication that the Christian doctrine is, valid. Earlier we were talking through the show, you were saying that, Adam and Eve, according to the Christian doctrine, God put them there, even though God, knowing that they will fall into disobedience. So, since I believe that, God predetermined our salvation before the foundation of the world, that seems like the best plan that God could have.
So in your view, God, yeah, can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I could hear you. You just you was like silent for a moment, and I thought I cut out.
Well, yeah. So your view is that God specifically creates certain people so that he can send them to hell.
That's the Christian doctrine.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were describing what you thought about it.
Yeah, that's what I believe in. So what I think is, it's like you're making a clay, and a clay, when it's in the potter's hands, the potter could do whatever he wants, right? Right? Like he can make him for honor, he can make him for dishonor. The property is just a property. He doesn't actually have any kind of autonomy over the maker. So I think it makes a lot of sense, that we don't have free will. And I think we could actually evaluate this concept that we don't have free will and everything is predetermined.
Well, so I feel like there's a bit of a conflict there, and maybe you can explain it because, one of the big talking points from a lot of apologists and religious people, or specifically Christians, is that God gave us free will so that, we could make the free will decision to accept him. And like God didn't want to create robots that would just automatically believe in him. But you're saying that it's more in line with Christianity for God to make these robots that would automatically believe in him, but he also further makes other robots to torture for eternity. Is that correct?
So what I think is, I wouldn't put it in that way. So you're saying that he made us in a way that robots are made. What I was trying to say is the feeling that we have, the emotions that we feel, like sinful thoughts and sinful actions. I think God probably knew, but he actually chose a certain people. And, he sends Christ to save those chosen people. So those people who are not elected, they don't have the choice to actually believe in Jesus. I think that's more in line with the Christian doctrine. If God could do
Ammanuel,
everything,
hold on 1 second. Ammanuel, so I get that you say that, but what I hear from you is basically that the only true Christian is the Christian that never deconverts. Is that true?
That is correct, because
See, that's just a no true Scotsman. It's a no true Scotsman fallacy there, bud.
If you truly believe in Christ and you have the Spirit of Christ, why would you deconstruction? One of my friends, he used to be our leader.
Hold on, Ammanuel. Hold on 1 second, okay?
Okay.
Because Kevin, I mean, he was all into it, and so Kevin, Ammanuel is saying that you were never truly a Christian, that you were, I guess, maybe faking it or something. Yeah. What do you think about that?
It was real to me, damn it. That's how I feel. I mean, I believed as much as anybody else could believe. And yes, that was referencing the wrestling thing. Yeah. I mean, I believed, I was all in. I thought I heard from God. I thought I talked to God. I read the Bible. I just stopped believing at a certain point. And so what you're saying that God knew that was going to happen. He made me knowing that I would believe and then stop believing, and that I'm going to go to hell for that now.
I couldn't say what your part will be, because maybe in the end, maybe you'll change your mind. I don't know what will happen in your future, but I remember one of my closest friends. He used to be a very Christian. He used to be a very Christian person, and now he don't believe in God. That God exists. He became a agnostic atheist. So what I would say, those people who actually did convert, they might be sincere Christians from the beginning, but they were not born again, truly born from God. And I don't think that why would
but I get that. Hold on. I get that you're thinking that God is creating the people that he wants to then bring back into heaven, which is a different, I mean, we can discuss that here in a minute, but you understand that, like, as a matter of the logic of your argument here, God therefore creates people specifically to live on this earth, dedicate a good portion of their lives to serving him, believing in him, sincerely believing in him, but ultimately he's going to toss them into a lake of fire, or he's going to torture them for eternity or something like that. He specifically, I just want to know if you acknowledge this. God specifically creates people so that he can torture them for eternity after they die.
I'm saying that makes a lot of sense when you think about, there are like,
what kind of fucking sense do you think that makes?
Okay, I'm trying to give an illustration. For example, let's say a fly is going, let's say you open a door and a fly just went, it just got into the house, and you'll probably kill it because it's so small, it's so tiny, right? So it doesn't have a power over you. So since you're bigger than those insects, you could actually do anything with them, right? So what I think is, if God could save whatever people he could save, and God hardens a people's heart like Pharaoh hardened his heart, when Israelites were like slaves in Exodus, I think that makes so much more sense, instead of the apologist that actually said that we have free will. If God could do everything, how can we have free will? It doesn't even make sense, even logically. So what I think is, if the shepherd died for the sheep, he didn't die for the goats, even in that logic, the Christian logic. So I would not say that you are.
I'm sorry, Ammanuel. Are you calling in to argue against the existence of an all good God? Do you consider God to be omnibenevolent?
He's omnibenevolent only to the chosen people, not for everyone. Even the Bible.
That's not what omnibenevolent means. That's not what omnibenevolent, Ammanuel. That's not what omnibenevolent means. Omnibenevolent means that he's all good all the time. Well, he's good all the time, and all the time he's good. Huh?
Yeah, but he's not to all, you know. He's good all the time for the chosen people, not for everyone. Because
so your main stance is that he can just. Your main thing is just God can do whatever he wants. That's the bottom line. Like we're just GI Joes, and God's just can do whatever he wants with us, and some go to hell, some don't. What about people who are Christians right now? People who are like pastors right now, leading people to Christ every week, reading their Bible every day. Those people, if later in life they don't believe anymore, does that mean that they never really were a Christian? Or are you saying that God already knew that was going to happen? Or
yeah, God predetermined that to happen. That's my point. So you can be a Christian and with a very sincere heart. You might back away, but I think everything lines up with God's plan. Everything that happens in the world, I say God predetermined everything that will happen in the world.
Okay. Listen, if we have if we have no control, like in the Christian thought process, if there's no control over whether or not you go to heaven or you go to hell because God's already made that decision, what is the point in evangelism? Like, do you not believe in evangelism? And furthermore, what's the fucking point of you calling in?
No, so I do believe that we have to evangelize to all nations because that's like one of the commandments. But
Ammanuel, stop right now. Fucking why? Okay. I want you to explain that. If God has already determined that whether or not I'm going to hell or going to heaven, why the fuck would you even care about evangelizing?
Because here again, I think the only way that you could actually call the people who are already chosen, how you figure out is you have to evangelize first. And if they accept your message, if they were predetermined to be saved, if they don't accept what you're saying, they're predetermined not to be saved. So that's how you know a person is pre-elected.
What?
Okay.
No, yeah. I don't. So is God? Hold on. Is God? Oh, do you? Because because what I'm hearing is that
those actions still have to be carried out. Like the actions of the people still have to be carried out, I think is what he's saying. Like God predetermines that he knows what's going to happen, but it's still like the person who's evangelizing still has to carry out the action or evangelize for the thing that was predetermined to actually happen. Is that what you're saying? I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but yes, that's what I got from it.
Yeah, because if they don't hear, if I'm not telling you what's happening, then how do you know that a certain thing is going on? Like, let's say if there's like a pandemic and people are not warning you, how would you know if no one is like?
Well, because we're not all knowing. Like the hang up that I have right now with this whole concept is that you're telling me that God has created people specifically so that he can save them and bring them to heaven, right? But that itself is contingent upon them hearing the word of Jesus and accepting it and then being brought to heaven. I feel like is there not like some kind of fucked up contradiction here? Because like if God has created somebody to go to heaven, but it's purely contingent on them hearing about how, Jesus was sacrificed or whatever for their sins, like then God hasn't predetermined that they'll go to heaven. Like because they have to hear about it first. If evangelicals stop being evangelicals and they just let people do whatever in the fuck, then God's predetermined plan is foiled. So, like, this seems like very fucking contradictory at this point. Like, how can it be contingent upon that, but also be predetermined?
So here's what I would say. Few are chosen, many are called, right? So using that logic, in the West, specifically in the United States, there was a growth in Christianity in the 80s and the 90s. Now, religion is pretty much declining. A lot of people, American churches are like on the decline because.
Okay, how does this apply? How is this? How can you like? This seems like it's not actually tied to whatever in the fuck we're talking about now, or in the discussion.
Because
like I don't care what happened in the 90s. I mean, yeah, awesome that religion is declining, religiosity is declining, and the religious nuns are gaining. But I don't see how that has any bearing on God predetermining whether or not somebody's going to heaven, but that itself is contingent upon, evangelicals doing their job. Like that.
By the way, this is the best evidence for the Christian God. The evidence that I'm giving you right now. No, I can guarantee you that it's fucking not. It's because you feel like I think you're not understanding some of the things. What I'm saying is, there's a prophecy in Scripture that money will fall away, and we are seeing it before our eyes because we are getting closer to the end. That's what I think it is.
I mean, people have I don't think that it is, because prophecies are generally too vague in order to actually say that they've been fulfilled and stuff. So prophecies are never going to be good evidence whatsoever. But also, people have been convinced of Christianity and have left Christianity like throughout time. And I mean, true, in the United States, it built, Christianity built, and then it started to, fall away. That's happened before elsewhere in the world, in different times and different places, as other religions take over or other philosophies take over. Like, it's happened everywhere. Well, this is not something that's new. So how is this proof that we're coming upon the end times when this has happened multiple times before in the past?
Because if I made a prediction, let's say I made a prediction that 200,000 people will die with COVID, the genuinity or the truth of the thing that I'm saying is, how did my prediction came true? Was it accurate? Okay, how is it not the same?
It's not the same as like people will eventually fall away or people will not believe this. Like, if I were writing a book about a religion or whatever I was making up, I would also write in that book, people will eventually not believe this, or people will fall away from this, or people will mock God. Like, that doesn't prove anything, I don't think.
I mean, just like with the pandemic example that you gave there, we know how religions work. We know how societies work as far as like the religious aspect goes. People come into the religion, people leave the religion. That's a normal everyday thing that occurs. Just like with the pandemic, we know how viruses work. We know how these things operate. And once, you figure out exactly how lethal a virus is, you can make reasonable predictions as to how lethal it will be, how many people it will kill if you don't take the proper precautions. These are just things that we can predict because we know how the phenomena works. This is just the predictive power of that. So this is not evidence of God. It's not evidence of anything other than just how societies and specifically religious groups, religious sects work.
Yeah, but what I think is the reason that we think the ways of God are foolishness to us is because it's like beyond our ability to comprehend. If I tell you that this is the gospel, this is the true gospel, and I testify the words of Jesus Christ, you're gonna think that I'm crazy or insane. The reason is, people can't make this thing up because it can only come from God. That's why we don't have the ability to know it 100%. Because
what can people not make up?
I said people can't make up of something that we can comprehend 100%. That's just like impossible.
I don't know. I'm thoroughly confused by the Lord of the Rings series. So, I mean, I feel like you could definitely make up some convoluted stuff that people won't understand. Like that's not
for sure.
Thing. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Kevin? I've kind of dominated this a little bit.
Yeah. I don't really understand the last thing that you were saying there about how somebody can't make up something that we couldn't comprehend. I think that doesn't make sense. I think that's not true. And men literally wrote the Bible. Men wrote it, whether you believe it was God inspired or not. So I don't understand the point of saying that we couldn't write something that we couldn't comprehend. Can you explain what you mean?
I was just quoting from Paul's letters. So if you notice, one of the biggest evidence of the Christian God is we don't have the ability to comprehend 100%. They said this was the evidence that, the claims that we make and the scriptures that we quote is like true and genuine and, ultimately came from a divine source. Because when you study other religions, those other religions, you can pretty much tell that they are man-made religions. For example,
you're talking about the guy who never met Jesus, okay. Right? Talking about Paul, the guy who never met Jesus, his writing. Just wanted to clarify.
He didn't meet Jesus physically. Yeah, he didn't meet Jesus physically. He even admits that he is the last to be an apostle. So,
sounds like something he'd say.
Hello?
Yeah. We're here. We're waiting for you to make a point.
Yeah, I was just trying to say that this is like the most fact or evidence that we could give for the Christian God. The fact that we can't comprehend 100%. The fact that the predictions that were written in Scripture
let me ask you this.
are coming to pass.
Let me ask you this, Ammanuel. Why is it that God would have people, like he would inspire people to write the Bible that's supposed to describe him, and this Bible is supposed to communicate what we can do to be in his favor? Why is it that now it's, well, we can't understand God? Like, I feel like the purpose of the Bible is to explain God to us so that we don't piss him off and he doesn't fuck us up. Like that, at least in the Old Testament, that's supposed to be what the Bible's about, because you're supposed to read it every so often and you're supposed to follow the laws and all this other kind of shit. So it kind of seems to me like if we don't understand God, that's God's fucking fault.
No, I'm telling you this because I actually gave a very good example of my premise. Because my premise was God only saved those people who are chosen and elect. And if God gave this book or this scripture, and we can't understand, some people can't understand it, but some people believed it. If some people are like within heart and heart, we could say that God only saves those people who are chosen, and the other people are going to be judged. I'm sorry.
Then why create anybody who's not chosen? Just create chosen people. What's the point?
Yeah, I just gave you this analogy of if you're making something for your glory. Let's say you're writing a book and you just wrote a very crappy book, right? And let's say you wrote another book which is like good and interesting and funny or whatever.
Too easy.
And if both books are your handwritings, both books are your hand production, but you could make it because you have the ability and power to create those things. That's what a potter does to the clay, because when a potter is making
I'm
clay,
sorry, how does this
break it off?
Emmanuel, I'm not seeing how this connects to our larger discussion. And I feel like we're in a death spiral now, because we're just chasing around the same arguments and you're just making the same points. And so, I mean, I'm going to allow you to say your last little bit here, but from what I can tell is that, you know, God apparently has now made, has made people specifically so that he could send them to hell, and he makes them knowing that he's going to send them to hell. So it kind of seems it seems rather shitty of God to do that. But I mean, we're going around in circles, and we do have other calls on the line now. So if you want to say your final piece, and then we can get to some other calls.
So the only thing that I said is this is the ultimate proof of the Christian God. And I want to say to the other guy who is with Godless Engineer that he might I would like him to rethink that if he was saved or not, because if you're once saved,
hey Emmanuel,
you couldn't.
Hey Emmanuel, nah, dude, nah. This was terrible. Try again another day. This was god awful. This was so bad. This is maybe your worst call so far. Please try again another time. You have got to, if you're going to keep calling in, and you're not going to call in engaging on the premise of, if I'm wrong, I want to know, but instead on the premise of nothing will change my mind and I will embrace any explanation, no matter how fucking stupid it is, as long as it purports to explain the bullshit I think, then don't bother calling again. Just fucking save it and bye. I know John said he'd give you last words, and I'm cutting them off because we're getting less intelligent listening. Goodbye, Emmanuel.
Yeah,
God.
Yeah, I was. Sorry. I as soon as Jimmy stepped in, I was about to stop Emmanuel, because I mean, I'm not going to allow somebody like Emmanuel to come on here and like. Tell our guest you need to rethink sucking on that Jesus dick, okay?
Yeah, you're not calling a guest to repentance.
Yeah. It always comes back to that. You never really believed. That's always the final word, it seems like. And
I always hate it. I always hate it when they're like, oh, well, I know you better than you know yourself. Like, that seems to be their shtick all the time.
It's not the insult they think it is. I wish I could convince myself I was never a true Mormon. Jesus Christ. You know what the most embarrassing thing in the world to me is that I really fucking believed it. Hook, line, and sinker. It was my whole ass identity. When you tell me I was never a true Mormon, I just go, oh my God, thank you. Thank you for thinking that, for thinking that I would have been above that. Because to me, I definitely was, but your impression of me is higher than my own.
What's up, Heathen? Thank you so much for checking out this clip from The Line. If you enjoyed this clip today, you can get more of it by subscribing to The Line. So hit up those links in the description so you can catch me the next time I host Skep Talk. I don't know, was that 20 seconds? Here's some filler shit for, to fill out the 20 seconds. I don't know. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy.